Welcome to the Healthy Half Hour podcast. We are your hosts, Richard and Karen Inslee.
The Healthy Half Hour podcast is your resource for all things healthy, and we will be discussing how to make nutrition, fitness and lifestyle choices work for you.
We will be sharing our own personal insights along with research gathered from working in the health and fitness industry for the past 10 years.
Our show is brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, which can be found at 7dayshred.com, and please feel free to visit our podcast website, which can be found at healthyhalfhourpodcast.com.
And now on to today's show.
We're back! Sounds like the movie. Well, what was that horror movie?
I have absolutely no idea. You can't start off with I don't even know what we're talking about. That's great.
There was a movie, like a scary movie in the 70s or 80s or something, and that little girl, was it the...
People are switching off left, right and centre. Let's go.
Anyway, we're back.
We're from 5 listeners to 3 all of a sudden.
Yeah. No, I'm sure we're still in double digits.
Really?
So,
oh, well.
What have we been up to? Getting ready for Christmas. We always like to give clients some gifts like this time of year, and I typically make most of the gifts for your clients and, well, my clients as well. So I've been making body scrub and soap and lip balms, and
hopefully nobody puts body scrub on toast this year like somebody did last year.
Yeah, one of Richard's clients, he thought it was a honey spread and was putting it on his toast and couldn't understand why his wife actually took it to the bathroom, and she informed him that it was
I think he only took one bite and it was a little lemony for him.
Yeah, but in his defence though, absolutely everything in the body scrub is edible, so it is all natural, and everything I've been making for clients has included, or virtually everything's included, our honey or our beeswax. So that's pretty neat because it's a more personal touch, more natural. So
yeah, and people like that, and again we like it too. So I mean that's it's all part of the reason why we do it, and again the chain in which we live in the world, and I mean we're just part of the rest of the world. So I mean we utilise things that we've got and things out of the garden as much as we can, and yeah,
like I say, we've had clients that have come in and Richard's brought gifts home, and his clients have made things, and one of them yesterday, Richard came in with a gift from her, and she'd made us this grocery bag, and it was so neat because it's all bee orientated, so it's bright yellow and there's bees all over it, and you did say that you're going to start selling them and taking a cut off the top.
yeah they were really nice, but so yeah, we going to do this podcast on kind of not anti-aging, but one of my clients just said, kind of how can you protect yourself as much as you can from, his exact words, from sitting in a corner in a wheelchair peeing yourself when you're 75. So, and again, if you look at especially like modern kind of life now and look at care homes and things, there's a lot of people in there. I mean, really, they're too young per se to actually be in there, and they shouldn't really be in that condition. I mean, there are some things, obviously, that you can't do anything about. And again, especially like genetic things, or again, just certain illnesses that ailments that kind of get to us. But you're going to try and make yourself as bulletproof as you can. So, I mean, this is basically what we're going to talk about today. So, a lot of this stuff, again, just really rotates around lifestyle. And lifestyle with this, it's got so many different things in it, and there's so many different elements to it that we're going to try and chip away as many as we can today. So, and again, it's trying to live as long as we can. I mean, in our minds, and again, we've said to clients and before on other podcasts, it's not that kind of eating better and looking after yourself and exercising is going to make you live longer in years, but it's going to make you live longer in quality, hopefully. So, I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about. We're looking to
thrive, not survive, basically.
Yeah, and you see people, again, kind of in the mid-60s, sometimes early 70s, and they've got oxygen tubes in them, they can hardly walk, and they're just in a really bad way, and they kind of hang on to life for the next 5-10 years, not being able to do much, not being able to go and visit people, not going to enjoy the countryside or whatever, and just kind of hanging in there until the inevitable finally gets to them, which, I mean, it gets to us all at some point. So again, the goal of this really is how we can kind of get there without going through that probably last 10 years of gloom and doom, if you want to call it, and kind of work on things now. Again, especially like, say, if you're in your 30s listening to this, you're at the prime point. But again, if you're in your 40s, 50s, early 60s, there's still stuff you can do to kind of help you move forward.
And you had a client's father pass away this year, I think it was, and he was actually 104, was he?
That was last year, yeah.
Last year.
Yeah, he was 103. And I mean, in his defence, I mean, he said it was a blessing as much as it was a curse. Because once you've buried all your brothers, sisters,
even kids,
parents, and you start burying your kids, it's
your
just
friends, and they say it can be very lonely because none of your other friends are living to 104,
That's true.
103.
Yeah. And that's actually a good segue in, because one of the things in the lifestyle list is actually loneliness. And if you do research or kind of Google loneliness, people who live on their own and don't get out very much and have very limited social lives tend to live a lot less, not as long, should I say, as people who go out and they go out with other people, or they're married, or so loneliness is actually can lead to a lot of different things, and especially like some mental issues as well, because again, we're humans and we need interaction with other humans. So if you're stopping yourself not having that interaction with other humans, then again, that can really affect your longevity and how long you live.
And again, with loneliness, I mean, you start to get apathetic about so many things, like how much you move, what nutrition choices are. I mean, anytime in the past, like you've been on training courses when you had a real job. One of my friends I worked with, he used to have to like text me and phone me and say, make sure that you eat, because when I was by myself, I'd make a meal and then go, yeah, I'm not really hungry. And like, I wouldn't put as much emphasis on actually making any nutritious meals, because, there was only me to make it for. So if you are single, sometimes for whatever reason you're single, it can be tough to actually make quality lifestyle choices.
Yeah, because again,
and to care.
Yeah, because again, there's only you, and why, you don't really go, oh, I won't bother, or this, that, and the other. But again, like I say, humans naturally want to spend time with other humans, and that interaction. And again, social media now, even with the youngsters, has been kind of blamed for some of the things that are going on with modern life. Because again, people they call it social media, but really it's the most anti-social media out there. I mean, when we were kids, if you wanted to go and see your friends, you had to get off your butt and walk or cycle down the street to go and find them. Now they just lie in bed and text each other all night long. And anyway, another one. So Karen just mentioned like nutrition and exercise. We'll start out with exercise, but where we're going to go with it is movement. Because exercise, a lot of times people just think of exercise as kind of, I'm going to the gym, or I'm doing burpees or whatever. And really movement covers a lot of different things. So with, again, movement, walking, we've said before ad nauseum, walking is one of the best things for humans to do. When you're walking, not necessarily every time, but do walk. So you're getting your heart rate up a little bit, you're sweating a little bit, you're getting things moving. When you walk, you're basically pumping lymph around your body. You're making your muscles work. Your stomach muscles rub against your gut and make your gut work. So peristalsis is helped, and motility and things, all these things, again, just from walking. Social again, you can go out walking with friends and things. So again, it covers so many different things. Or a dog, exactly. And
can we get a dog?
No.
Oh.
Mobility. Mobility, people say, I don't really understand what mobility is. So, I mean, we're talking like stretching, we're talking flexibility. Join a yoga class. Guess what? You'll meet other people there. and the seniors yoga, there's chair yoga. So again, all these things can help, move us in the right direction.
And each week I run a seniors Drums Alive class, and I got an email off one of them the other day. She was apologising that she hadn't been back to class for a few weeks, but she's got some knee issues. And her comments were, "Oh, I really love the class. The program's great. And I love how friendly the other ladies are and how welcoming they've made her." And a lot of them have made long-lasting friendships just from attending my fitness class. And it's good, like say, socializing, because as you get older, I mean, some of the ladies are single, and it's just a good way to get out, move, but also, removing that isolation from your life as well.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the important things with movement, especially again if we are getting older and older females, is that can be that obviously osteoporosis and just weakness in the bones. So again, lift some weight. You don't have to lift big weights, but basically lift more than your body weight, because again, you need to stress the bones in a good way to again make them stronger, because otherwise, again, strength isn't going to just come on its own, because like we've said before, the body will adapt to whatever inputs it's given. So if you're giving it not a lot of input, it will adapt to not a lot. The more inputs you're giving it from a strength point of view, from a cardio point of view, it's going to adapt to that. And again, the more you adapt, the more kind of lean muscle tissue that you're going to retain. With lean muscle tissue, again, with age, there's something called sarcopenia, which is where we start to lose that muscle tissue. The muscle tissue not only supports all your joints, but also, again, it's that metabolic factory. So again, it's calorie burner, and there's, like we've said before, there's no downside to being strong. So strength is another important factor just to kind of add in there. You don't need to be Arnie Schwarzenegger or anybody like that, but again, just some muscle tone and just some strength, and you can even just add it into like your general everyday thing, especially summertime. Something like gardening's really good, because again, you're moving, you're bending, you're lifting, you're digging, and again, as long as you take your time in this province where we are, I mean, snow clearing, don't go crazy with it, but again, it's still exercise and still things you can do to again keep yourself mobile and keep yourself fit.
There again, it's raining today. This is unheard of in Winnipeg this close to Christmas.
It's a little weird.
The roads are horrible as well.
I know that's going to get fixed in a couple of days' time. The temperature's going to drop like a stone apparently. With obviously movement, we've got diets. I mean, again, talking of bone loss, mineral loss, again, you need to keep your calcium up. You don't need to drink tens of gallons of milk to get calcium. Google it, there's calcium in lots of foods. So again, that can really help. But again, you need magnesium, you need the other minerals and vitamins. So again, supplementation isn't something that you should say no to, because again, we all need that extra little bit. Obviously, diet, nice, balanced. As we get older, we utilize less calories. Again, slightly through that muscle loss, but also a little less movement. Just your diet to suit your weight. Because again, the last thing you need to be when you're getting older is overweight. And I was talking to a client a couple of weeks ago, and I said, so if you go to like an old person's like home or something, how many overweight people do you see in there? And the cogs were turning around in her head. And she says, that's a good point. You don't tend to see many overweight people in old people's homes. I said, well, no, because they don't tend to make it that far. So again, weight is something to be conscious of. And also that ties in, like I was saying a couple of weeks ago with my client, that ties in with blood sugar. So again, if your blood sugars are right out, that's going to send you towards that type 2 diabetes point. And so again, it's worthwhile just keeping those blood sugars regulated and your weight normal. And just a little update on my client. Yes, he's slipped a little with his food because of Christmas, the one I was talking about a few weeks ago. But his blood sugars are still pretty good. So we'll pick him up in the new year and hopefully move forward with that one. I said I'd keep people in the loop. Probably everybody's going, what's he talking about?
Yeah, because they haven't listened to the other one.
Maybe not. But anyway, it was a couple of podcasts ago anyway. So yeah, and I mean, another one of the big factors with health when you get older is blood pressure. So just having regular checks. We own a $100 Omron blood pressure cuff, and we can check our own. So I mean, it's just worthwhile knowing these things, not rather than just once a year with your doctor. but knowing what your blood pressure is, and again, that walking, that little bit of exercise, diet can play into blood pressure too, obviously with your blood sugars and everything. So if you do something and all of a sudden you notice your blood pressure's going up or going down a little bit, make a mental note of it. Of if it's going down to normal, keep doing it. If it's going up, then kind of avoid that, what you're doing, and see if it makes a difference.
And your blood pressure does rise slightly as the older that you get. Your resting blood pressure as a populace will get a little bit higher as you get older. So don't start freaking out unless you're finding that it's creeping up and up and up and then going to drastic levels. I mean, you just mentioned about our annual medical that we had a couple of weeks ago, and we did our blood pressure before we went, which my doctor does because I get that white coat syndrome. And I think mine went up to 154 when I got there, and so did yours, didn't it? And he looked at both of us and said, neither of you like being here, do you? But
I think it's the excitement.
Yeah, but our doctor...
When he pulls the rubber glove on, he should do the blood pressure after that.
But our doctor isn't concerned about it because he knows exactly the reason. And stress can increase your blood pressure, and stress can increase your cholesterol levels. So basically, that's why we check ours, and our doctor lets me do 3 readings and take an average of the 3 readings before I go up there. So
again, that blood pressure cuff has its uses there. Mm-hmm. Nice segue again into stress.
I know. I didn't realise that I was going to just slip straight into it.
You're just feeding me today.
I know.
So stress. We have done podcasts on stress, a couple of them, I think, on stress. I think there was a part 1 and a part 2. Stress. Obviously, stress reduction as much as you can. And everybody has stress. We all have stress. So how you address stress and cope with stress too.
And it's not a case of avoiding stress, but it's getting good at it. And what I mean by that is getting good at recognizing what triggers the stress in your life, because there's some triggers that you can't remove. I mean, if you've got a job where your boss is a complete idiot and he's got no people skills and there's nothing you can do about it, but you can actually, you can actually work on how you respond to those triggers. So it's a case of, managing the stress, not necessarily removing all of it, but learning what those triggers are and learning on ways and strategies to actually cope better with the stressors. Yeah,
and I mean, that's that coping mechanism. And again, how you address it. Some people are naturally anxious and they have more trouble with coping with stress. Like Karen says, you're not going to get rid of all of it. But I mean, there are certain techniques you can do to reduce stress. And again, listen to the podcast we did on that part 1, part 2. And it's something that we may do another one on at some point in the future. One stress we kind of talked about a little bit in that podcast, but we've not really talked much about, is something called eustress. So that's eustress. So eustress. So exercise, again, not copious amounts of exercise like running a marathon, but walking and things like that is actually a eustress. So a eustress is a good stress. And with good stresses, like I say, the body will adapt. So you don't want to completely have no stress, but eustress is good because that adaptation, whatever it may be, will really help you adapt and obviously get better. So walking, exercise, things like that, they're all eustressors. Even a little watching a movie or something like that and getting a jolt or a fright, again, is a eustress. So you will adapt from that. Talking of movies, laughter is something that's huge. And again, it's the polar opposite to kind of the loneliness thing. And people who laugh a lot, again, look at studies, they tend to live longer. People who have more fun in life tend to live longer. And again, like I say, it's that attitude. And if you're one of those people, again, it's stress, and you're not looking at the brighter side of things, then really that's kind of going against helping you in that longer term reach that age more gracefully, as I said in the title of the podcast. So again, there's no magic bullet with this. There's no, if I just do this, I'm going to be that. Because again, everybody's different, as we've always said. And it's just picking away and doing little things that you like doing. So, I mean, if you like walking, walk. If you like to cycle, cycle. If you like to do this, that, and the other, find what exercise you like. And like I say, group activities, all the more better, because, again, you're getting out of that loneliness thing. With food and stuff, yeah, just choose a well-balanced diet that suits you. If you fancy the idea of keto diet, great. Get into your head that you can't eat what you want when you want. Basically, you've got to look after yourself. And really the bottom line with the whole thing is that you're kind of responsible for your own health. So you've got to really take control of your own health. And if you're not in control of it, then who is? I mean, basically, it's just a car heading down the hill with no brakes.
And when it comes to any lifestyle choices and looking at ways that you can age gracefully and have a more active life, and like I said earlier, you want to thrive, not just survive. It's a case of doing your research and looking at what interests you. But we see it a lot, especially with diets, especially, that people will do their research and go, oh, I like the idea of this diet, but we've covered this before, that sometimes the diet doesn't like you. So you've got to pick your poison. And
well, that's a good idea for a podcast.
Yeah.
Well, that's like 2 podcasts ago, or 3 podcasts ago.
Something like that, yeah. So again, it's listening to the body and responding efficiently to what works for you that will get you to thrive, not just survive in life, and adapt and modify like your choices, whether it's movement. And we've had a client in the past, and she was like, I wouldn't say a type A client, she was probably a triple A like client, and her way to deal with her stress was to beat the crap out of her body with high intensity interval training. More movement was better in her eyes, but it wasn't. But she convinced herself that that exercise and that intensity and that stress on the body was how she dealt with her family and lifestyle stress, but it was the worst thing for her.
And remember, if you're listening to this in your 30s and you start to make strides forward, which is basically what I did. I started in my 30s. I've got clients starting 40s and 50s and 60s. Remember what you're doing in your 30s, 40s. It's going to change in your 40s. It's going to change in your 50s. It's going to change in your 60s. It's going to change in your 70s. And again, adapt to your age and what you can do. Obviously, the more you're doing earlier, the later in life, you're going to be able to do more.
And it's never too late to start as long as you start. And I know that I've mentioned this lady before, but one of my boot campers, she's actually in Thailand right now because she realizes that she really doesn't want to stay in Winnipeg in a cold winter. But she's 85 this next year, and she comes to as many of my boot camps and fitness classes. She does burpees. She does absolutely everything. I know I've mentioned her before, but she didn't start really doing any significant exercise until she was in her early 50s, and she actually started teaching fitness classes. And it's paid off for her because she sent me an email the other day saying, oh, I've just managed to sign up for the Bangkok Marathon. So she walks it, and she says, oh, I only walk it. And I'm like, well, for an 85, someone who's going to be 85 soon, to be doing a full marathon or even half marathon distance and walking it, she's just one of those people who's proved everybody wrong, though. She's full of like energy, and her attitude is awesome.
And like Karen says, you've got to start somewhere, so don't jump straight into something big time. Like I say, find an organized program, get yourself a trainer or somebody who, again, can guide you if you need it. I mean, start with a walking, like say Karen said, if you've got a dog or something like that, don't walk a cat because that doesn't work, or a frog.
I don't know, like Mr. Binkers follows me to the neighbours, so.
He's just nosy. So, yeah, start somewhere, and hopefully we've helped with this. Again, just maybe we've got a few light bulbs to go off, and it's got people thinking, oh, okay, because again, start now, because like Karen said, it's never too late, but don't leave it until it is too late. Does that make sense?
But
or did that tie myself in a knot?
You can't start a diet till the 1st of January.
Oh, true.
Or a Monday. And last year it was a win-win because the 1st of January was on a Monday. But it's on a Tuesday this year, so that's it.
Well, we've got to wait a little bit longer because we're almost there for that. So again, hopefully we've helped for this. We're going to wrap this puppy up. Christmas is kind of coming up fast. So for our next podcast, which will be after the Christmas break, but if you're listening to this in July next year, then it won't really make any difference. But it will be
mental health issues, depression and diet, and like the connection between the three of them. So
deep.
Yeah.
We will see you then.
That's all we have time for right now, but we do hope that you join us for our next show. And if you want to contribute to an upcoming show by suggesting a topic that you would like us to discuss in more detail, then hop over to our website, healthyhalfhourpodcast.com, subscribe to our podcast and submit your suggestions. The Healthy Half Hour Podcast was brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, and don't forget to share our details with your friends and review our show. Until next time, thanks for listening.